What is good, everybody? Gamer Critic back with yet another Why I'm Buying, and today we are talking about the next game in the Mafia series, and that is Mafia: The Old Country. Now, Mafia: The Old Country is a narrative-driven action-adventure game being developed by Hangar 13 and being published by 2K Games. It releases on August 8th, 2025 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. You play as Enzo Favara, who escapes a brutal life in the sulfur mines and joins the powerful Teresi crime family. As he rises through the ranks, he's pulled into the world of loyalty, betrayal, and sacrifice, where survival means leaving your old self behind. So why am I buying Mafia: The Old Country? Well, I am a relatively simple guy. I see something that in any way, shape, or form reminds me of Uncharted in any way, I will pick it up day one. And that's precisely the impression that I got from Mafia: The Old Country the second I saw the gameplay trailer. This looks like Uncharted. I mean, of course it's not Uncharted. One's a swashbuckling adventure, one, you know, is a mafia gangster story. But just as far as the combat and the gameplay goes, it looks really similar to Uncharted. And then on top of that, I also just love a good narrative. I love a good story. That's part of the reason why I love games in the first place, because of their abilities to tell such great, fantastic stories. And Mafia: The Old Country, it looks like it is really good. If nothing else, it looks like Mafia: The Old Country is going to deliver on two things: the presentation and the story. Because that's clearly what this game is going for. If it's able to deliver on those two fronts, I can forgive the other issues. Now, admittedly, I got a little worried after I watched the IGN preview, but I guess that was just IGN fucking up again, because that video looked terrible. But thankfully they uploaded a 4K video of that and it looked 10 times better. It actually looks great, which I guess is how to be expected given how this game runs on Unreal Engine 5. Like, this opening scene looks incredible. The super dramatic lighting, the atmosphere, and again, those faces, look at them. But okay, presentation is all great, but like I said, that's really only half of what a game like this really needs to achieve. That story really needs to deliver, and I feel like that's exactly what they're aiming to do. The way that they've described the main protagonist and his struggle is very interesting. He's a young man in indentured labor who turns into a family soldier and slowly works his way up. So to him, this isn't really a choice, it's almost like something he has to do. So I guess that this story is really going to answer: how far are you willing to go for survival? How far are you willing to go for your family? And at what point in this descent is it going to be too much? I already know that this story is gonna get into points that is like that, but still, those are interesting questions. And assuming that this game takes its time to go into those themes, I do believe I'm gonna be thoroughly entertained. And it also helps that everything that I've seen about the acting looks dynamite. The acting, the motion capture is incredible. That one cutscene that we saw from the preview told me everything that I had to know about the acting. And if the acting throughout the entire game is like this, I'm not worried about it. I just want this story to be a good Mafia story. I want betrayal, I want good drama, I want some good action, and if the game is able to deliver on that, I am already going to be very satisfied. The game's own tagline, "Family takes sacrifice," it looks like they are really going to take that to the extreme. And I just really think that if the acting, presentation, and writing delivers on that, truly showing how far Enzo is willing to go for this loyalty and this power, I think if nothing else, it's going to be a very interesting character study. Now, the one thing I am still on the fence about when it comes to the story is the length. It's something that we really don't know too much about. What we do know is that when IGN did their whole preview thing, that chapter took 1 hour, and the person who made that video played 3 hours. So we can assume that each chapter is probably gonna be about an hour long. Now, the way things looked in that preview, it looked like they were barely getting into the action, and they're already 3 hours into the game. So if I'm an optimist, I am going to assume that this is going to be somewhere between the sweet spot of 12 to 15 hours. And honestly, if we can get a 12 to 15 hour game, that's honestly more than I could have hope for. What I'm expecting at the minimum is 10 hours. So anything above the 10-hour mark is solid, but 12 to 15 hours, that would be perfect. I'd be so satisfied if we can get that. But despite the fact that I am mainly coming to this game for how fantastic the presentation is and how engaging I think the story is going to be, there's also the combat. And you know, again, this isn't a game you come to the combat for, but from what we've seen, the combat looks okay. It looks good. It looks relatively unchanged. It doesn't look like it's doing anything new, but it looks like it's just perfectly solid Uncharted style combat. And I mean that too. It really looks a lot like Uncharted. It's a cover-based third-person action game where you're shooting guns, stealthing on enemies, clearing bases, and this, that, and the other. But again, that's not to say it looks bad. It just looks like stuff that we've already seen. And it's not to say it's not doing a few things a little interesting, like Mafia the Old Country, as they said before, is really striving for that realism. So you're not going to be using a whole lot of guns. You'll be getting a few guns, I think, but from what we've seen, it looks like the real crux of combat is going to be with your knife. And I think what they're doing with the knife combat looks really freaking cool, like really up close and personal, just really cinematic. You can also use your knife for stealth, and one of the interesting things is that your knife actually dulls after a few uses. So that means Enzo is going to have choices. You can either silently take down the enemy using your bare arms, which is going to take a little longer, or you just end up using your knife. But if you use your knife too many times, then eventually you're going to have to resharpen it or rethink your approach. I think that is pretty cool. I actually like stealth in my game, so I like that Mafia the Old Country is adding it. I really hope it's one of those things where stealth is actually an option and not just you do stealth for like a few people, then you get inevitably caught, and then you're just forced to do combat. And from what we've been told by Alex Cox, it sounds like that's what they're going to do. Alex Cox says that players can approach most encounters through stealth if they choose. That means creeping through shadows, using knife throws, or sneaking past patrols, etc., etc. So it sounds like stealth is going to be a viable option, which is good, because I hate when like games give you that illusion of choice. I just really appreciate how much detail they are putting into this game. And I'm not just talking visually and presentation wise. We already talked about that. I'm talking about what you have at your disposal. Like, you don't have many guns. You have to rely on knives because of where this game is set. Even down to the way you travel around the world, you are going to be able to use maybe a few cars, but this is early 1900s. Cars were literally just being made. They're still super slow and heavy. So what are you going to be using? You're going to be using a lot of horseback riding, which, yeah, I understand riding horses in video games is nothing new, but I just like, one, the reasoning behind doing it. Two, I like that in some areas, in some missions, you are going to have a choice between your horse and a vehicle. I think that's cool. But, you know, like I said, the combat looks cool, the stealth looks cool. It just all looks like stuff that we have seen before. But that's not what you go into Mafia the Old Country, a game like this, for. It's not. You're not looking for something new. This is a game where you're looking for quality, not newness. And from everything that we've seen regarding the presentation and especially the story and acting, I think is at the very least going to deliver on that front. Because, fun fact about me, I love movies. It's part of the reason why I love story games so much. And the fact that this game is promising me an old school Mafia film in the form of a game, that is just a big hook for me. Now, again, I'm still on the fence about a few things. The length, I was just making an assumption, but we really don't know. This is a game where length is very important. That, and not to mention, we also don't know if there's going to be anything else to do in the world outside of the story. I mean, I'm not looking for straight up open world activities and side missions and stuff, but most narrative stories that I know at the very least offer like a little side thing that you can collect that may add some extra lore into the story, or maybe just look cool to have. I don't know. It sounds like they're going to be adding something along the lines to it, because they say the game is going to offer 13 different knife designs. So maybe that's something you go out and find and you can add it to your repertoire. Even then, I do kind of hope that we maybe just get a little more. My biggest thing though is the length. But if they deliver on the length, then frankly, I'm not too worried. But hey, like I said, you never know. This could be a story that just completely screws the pooch and just drops the ball entirely. I don't think it will, but that's always a possibility. But from everything that I've seen and everything that I was told regarding presentation and especially the story, I can very much say that I am excited to play Mafia: The Old Country, and I can't wait to do it when it comes out on August 8th, 2025. And that's why I'm buying Mafia: The Old Country. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love these narrative style games, and everything that I've seen on this game, it just looks really, really cool. So I'm excited to give it a play. My next video, I am still working on my Clay Obscure review. Stay tuned for that. But I'm also going to try something different. I want to try and make follow-ups to my Why I'm Buying and make first impressions videos. So I'm currently playing Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. I'm about 10 hours in. So I'm going to start making a first impressions on that video, which I will hopefully have out in just a few weeks. So I'll keep you guys posted on that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. It helps a ton. If you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram. That's @thegamercritic. Be good people, and I will talk to all of you very soon. All right, peace.